Good afternoon, live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 58 from the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. I'm Roy Kessel with Sports Philanthropy Network, and we're very excited to have with us today Dana Herrera. And Dana is joining us to talk about the work that she does. So, Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roy, for having me. I appreciate it. We are very excited to be here today. This has been a phenomenal experience so far. And it's really exciting because it aligns so much, especially with the philanthropy and the impact and brain health and all the things that are being talked about. It aligns very much with what we do. So I represent and I'm the CCO for a organization called RMI, or the Regenerative Medicine Institute. And RMI is leading the way and pioneering a world of lifelong wellness, and that we're really looking at science based medicine approaches to regenerative medicine that are outside the standard surgical or norm of Western medicine, so to speak. The reason for that is because these treatments, and we have many athletes as patients, these treatments have little to zero side effects and are incredibly good at regenerating tissue, reducing inflammation, and communicating with your cells. So you get a great benefit with pretty much zero risk, which you can't really say anywhere else. So we're excited.
Yeah, and the right, we all know the concept of zero risk may not exactly exist, but I think that what's really important is for people to understand what the upside is,
Right.
right? I think that there's so much focus, right? If you look sort of from an FDA level or historical level on regulating things, right? You get a laundry list of side effects that may happen,
Correct.
right? But the question is, are some of those side effects worth it, right?
Right.
Because if the upside of the care that you're getting and the treatment and the
Right.
benefits. So take us through the process. I'm going to back you up a little bit
Sure.
further and ask how you got involved in this.
Absolutely. So that's a tough question for me to answer because I feel like I've been primed for this my whole life. My mother was a physical therapist, and at a very young age, she and my dad divorced. I couldn't go to daycare when we didn't have school, so I would go to work with her a lot, and I would see her treating patients and taking care of patients. And I was just telling a gentleman right over there that they never actually got better. Like they would keep coming back. And even at a young age, I realized I was like, there's got to be something different. There has to be something better that actually treats the root cause and isn't just treating a symptom, to where you can actually fix people, right? And so from an early age, I had a passion for helping people. And I've been in healthcare for 15 years now. And I've worked for top spine guys, orthopedic guys, hospital surgery centers, you name it. And what I kept seeing was the same thing over and over again, that again, we were just treating symptoms and not treating the root cause. And half the time, people would come back in with a different issue than when they came the first time for surgery. And so I got into the regenerative medicine space about 5 years ago, and it has grown by just leaps and bounds since then, if you can imagine. And I found this facility actually through the process of COVID. Somebody had gone down to Costa Rica and had learned about this and told me about it. And the two gentlemen that founded it, one is from New Jersey. He's a plastic surgeon. The other is a plastic surgeon in Costa Rica. And they have been working on this brainchild and this baby for about 10 years. So what's really cool is over the course of the last 10 years, 7 of those years was spent obtaining a license. So we have a license through the Minister of Health in Costa Rica. We are government sanctioned. We get audited. It took us 7 years to get that, and we're very proud of that because it showed the safety and the efficacy of our treatments. And what that means for patients is that there's confidence there, right? There's credibility, there's confidence in knowing when you're going to another country what you're getting. And that is something that we promise all of our patients as well. You always know what you're getting with us. We don't hide anything. We're fully transparent. We have our own lab. We can show the patients the lab. We are fully transparent in our processes, our quality control. So it's just really important, especially when you're talking about stem cells, that you go to a place and a facility that is reputable and that is transparent with you, because not very many places are.
Well, and that transparency is huge, right? I think one of the concerns, right? There's a lot of stories of stem cell
Yeah.
usage, we'll say,
Mhm.
and some of them are amazing, right? And some of them are catastrophic.
Mhm.
And how does a consumer tell the difference?
That is a wonderful question. And it is difficult, especially because if you go to Google and you type in stem cells, you're going to get a plethora of information, right? So, what I always tell our patients is to ask questions, right? So, there are multiple types of stem cells. A stem cell is not a stem cell, is not a stem cell. It's all about how it's handled in the lab. The stem cells that get a very bad rap are called embryonic stem cells. And those are the ones that can turn into all sorts of things. We don't deal with embryonic stem cells. We deal with what's called umbilical cells, and they're extremely safe. You want to ask any place you would consider even going for stem cell therapy. Do you have your own lab? Where do the stem cells come from? Do you have a process that you can show me and talk to me about? What is the viability, meaning what is the liveliness of the stem cells? Because a quick story, in the United States, we, through an orthopedic group, we did a study on the different labs and we tested all the cells. And what we found was that 5% or less were viable, meaning this is partially why the FDA banned it, okay? Meaning you had doctors, chiropractors, you name it, selling consumers dead stem cells and calling them stem cells. That's a problem, right? Dead stem cells are not the same as live stem cells. So you want to ask what the viability is. Can you prove it to me? How do I know what you're giving me is what you're telling me you're giving me? And so it's really important to ask those questions and to be informed and to know to ask those questions.
So, you list those questions, right? So, how would an average consumer, other than listening to this
Yeah.
conversation, right,
No,
understand that and find that information?
I don't know that they would. So a lot of what we're having to do is education. And that's just where we're at. And that's the truth because there's so much information, misinformation out there. We have to educate. And the more we can participate in things like this and the more we can talk about the questions to ask and what to look for and how to do it, the more we can educate the population. So that's our goal. We really want to make an impact 1,000% on the outcomes and the livelihood and the quality of life, but we also want to educate people to be able to be informed consumers and make the decision that's best for them.
So, you're doing all of this work to help, right? And so, obviously, you've got your system for marketing, but where are people finding you, and what kinds of questions are they asking, right? They may not be asking the right questions, but what kind of questions are they asking to determine if your services are appropriate for them?
So we actually don't do any marketing. All, or I shouldn't say all, 70% of our business is word of mouth, is all referrals. So somebody comes down and then they have such tremendous results and a great experience, they can't help but tell 10 of their friends, right? It's kind of one of those best kept secrets, right? So we don't do any marketing. It's all word of mouth, which speaks very highly of the experience itself and the outcomes. And so patients don't necessarily know what to ask other than the things that they've looked up online. So we help them. We will answer questions for them. We will give them the information. We also have partners. There's a big clinic owned by Tony Robbins called Fountain Life that we partner with. They do incredible advanced diagnostics for preventative, and we are their stem cell partner. So we work with different groups in the industry that are all trying to change the paradigm of healthy aging and taking care of our bodies and injuries and things, our cognition, all of those aspects. So word of mouth and then partners.
So, take us back now through what these treatments look like, right? Because again, as you said, the umbilical stem cell, the embryonic stem cell, right? People may or may not know the difference between those,
Sure.
which I think would be a good place to start.
Sure. Okay. So our focus, just so everybody understands, is that we are a longevity institute focused on slowing down and reversing the aging process at the cellular level. I touched on that a lot of Western medicine isn't addressing root cause, it's addressing symptoms, right? This is the opposite. We are addressing root cause. And so, in order to do that, you have to go down to the cellular level. Your stem cells are your regenerative tank, they're your fuel. And the way you should think about your stem cells is this: they're like contractors on a house. The older you get, the less of them there are, and the more naps they take. So they don't function like they used to. That's why things happen as we get older and we get injured and we can't recover. Embryonic stem cells come from fetuses, and those stem cells are called undifferentiated. So they can turn into anything and you can't control them. Umbilical cord stem cells are differentiated cells and they can only do three things, and that's it, three things. They can reduce inflammation, they can regenerate tissue, and they can communicate with your cells, which is my favorite part. When an umbilical cord cell comes into contact with one of your cells, it influences it to function like a younger version of itself. The byproduct of that for the patient is people's eyesight improves, energy levels improve, sleep improves, sexual wellness improves. You can actually burn muscle and burn fat and build muscle quicker because your body is getting a boost. Your regenerative tank is getting a boost. In addition to umbilical stem cell infusions, we also do things like therapeutic plasma exchange, and there's a lot of information on that right now. It's fantastic. It's like resetting your system. The analogy I use is we're walking, talking dirty fish tanks, right? You don't drop a brand new tropical fish in a fish tank and go see you in 10 years and hope that it survives. It's the same concept. If we clean out the environment that our cells live in and it's more pristine, then our cells can thrive and function at their peak. So there's different modalities and things that we do. I would also say that we're working on some very new, exciting protocols. We're constantly researching and on the forefront of medicine. So we're looking at protocols for MS. We're looking at protocols for chronic fatigue syndrome. We're just really looking at ways that we can improve anybody's quality of life. The majority of our patients are doing this from a preventative standpoint, but the rest of them are coming in because they're in pain or because there's something wrong or because their life today didn't look like it did 5 years ago, right? And that's really what drives us as an organization, is to help improve people's quality of life. I don't need you to live to 150. I can't promise you that's going to happen. But what I can do is I can help however many years you have left on this planet, making those quality, right? That's what it's about.
And we talk about that in a lot of other areas, right? Especially sitting here at the Super Bowl with NFL players and injuries, right? A lot of it talking
Mm,
about brain health and talking about the fact that, you can't reverse CTE or prevent CTE, but if you can increase the quality of somebody's life for the next 20 years
right.
instead of living with debilitating headaches, sleeplessness,
Hmm.
memory loss, all kinds of other issues. So, talk a little bit about, from a treatment perspective, what are the things that this works best to treat?
Sure. So, from a treatment perspective, this works the best on orthopedics, which is essentially joint and soft tissue, right? Our orthopedic results are phenomenal. We have treated many athletes because they don't have to have surgery. If they can get stem cell treatment, then they don't have to go through a surgical process if that's what's right for them, right? So orthopedically, we treat hips, shoulders, backs, knees, necks, you name it, right? We can treat it. And our response rate after just one round of injections is 85%. Not a single complication, not one, not a single adverse reaction, not one. So we are very successful in treating joints. We also do a lot of aesthetics for skin. So there are men and women both for collagen reproduction. We treat sexual wellness in men because as you age, blood vessels are like anything else in your body too. They age as well. And then soon to be women. And then just overall performance and protection in terms of the infusion. The infusion addresses systemic inflammation. So all things breed in inflammatory environments, right? That's what arthritis is inflammation. If you can maintain low levels of inflammation in your body, then those diseases and age-related illnesses that have to do with inflammation are extremely less likely to occur. And so, again, different aspects of what we treat, but all aimed at improving quality of life and preventing the aging process moving forward. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense, right? And I think that, it's been an evolution, right? How long have you been working with this program?
3 years.
And when you look ahead, right, you did your research before you got involved. You saw what was out there in the marketplace. You look ahead here as we sit in early 2024. What do you see on the horizon in the next, let's 2 to 3 years?
So, what is ahead in the regenerative medicine space is going to blow your mind. It's going to sound like science fiction, in fact. The knowledge and what comes from the research doubles every 6 months in this space. Okay. So we are continuing to research. There is something right now currently that we are working on called cellular reprogramming. And what cellular reprogramming is it's essentially taking your own stem cells, however old they may be, and turning them back to 30-year-old versions of themselves in a lab and then giving them back to you. So now you have, maybe you're 60, 70, or 80. Now you have 30-year-old versions of your cells in your body functioning like they did when you were 30. That is going to be very exciting when that comes out. There are also a lot of great protocols we're doing around cognition. So we're studying those, we're researching those around TBI, around Parkinson's, any kind of neurological cognitive issues. And we're really trying to figure out the multimodality approach to get the best outcome possible. Again, not a promise to cure anything, but we're hoping to alleviate symptoms so that quality of life is improved for our patients. It helps very much with TBI and depression and anxiety as well.
So with all of these people, right? One of the best ways to give back to the world or give back to the communities is to help people be healthy,
Yes.
because healthy people can have an enormous impact on that. Talk a little bit about yourself personally and RMI as an organization in terms of how you like to give back and what your favorite causes are.
Sure, absolutely. So 100%, and that is our mission, is that we want to keep you doing whatever it is that you do and how you contribute to the world for as long as humanly possible. A quick story, one of our founding physicians, Dr. Vincent Giampapa, was actually at the Vatican on stage in front of all the cardinals. And one of the cardinals asked him, but aren't you worried that you're playing God, right? We're extending lifespan. Aren't you worried that you're playing God? And he said his story is pretty funny. He's like, I almost peed my pants. He goes, but I looked up and there was a Michelangelo, and he said at that moment it hit him like, sir, your holiness, what if Michelangelo had 5 more years to contribute to society, or 10 more years, or 15 years? What would that have looked like, right? And so that's exactly what we're doing. So one of the groups we work with is Aerial Recovery, and they do something called Heal the Heroes, and we have treated several of their folks. They are essentially men and women who have gone into wars and now are being repurposed for missions where there's an earthquake and they go around the world and they rescue children from being trafficked. So we're treating them for a lot of TBI. That's one of the missions. And then anything else that comes our way, we are completely open to, because we are very, apt to give back and really understanding what the future holds and how to continue helping the individuals that, do things to change this world.
Well, Dana, thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Row at Super Bowl 58. Very impactful work that you're doing. We appreciate your support of Sports Philanthropy Network. We're excited to see how we can continue to partner as we build up as an organization and build chapters not only around the U.S. but in other countries around the world. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule today.
Thank you, Roy. I appreciate it.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking time to join Sports Philanthropy Network live at the Super Bowl and reminding you to live generously.